Hey everybody, welcome to the debut episode of Not Toys, where we review toys that are not toys. To be honest, this is something I've been meaning to do for a couple years now. I figure now with the line kind of wrapping up sometime in the next year or so, might as well get in on the action now and just give you guys my thoughts, my feelings, where I stand on the line. A little bit about me. I'm a lifetime DC fan, really McFarlane fan. I've been collecting this stuff since I was a kid in the early to mid 90s. Didn't intend to become a big time collector. It kind of just started off as a fun thing where I would see a figure here and there. Sometime between 2021 and 2023, all of a sudden I got in real deep, and here we are a few years later, and I have some thoughts on where the line is right now, where they've come from, where they're going with the remaining time. Yeah, that's what this channel is going to be about. Some reviews. We're going to be discussing some stuff, that's forthcoming. And yeah, let's get right into it. And we're going to be talking about the brand new Rebirth Batmobile and Rebirth Batman by McFarlane in the DC Multiverse line. This new release has had a bit of a mixed reaction kind of across the board from what I've seen and from me personally. Definitely some highs, definitely some lows, which in a weird way kind of seems to sum up the line as a whole, especially the way things are going this year. In some ways, it kind of seems like they're going out with a bang, and then in other ways, it kind of feels like they're throwing in the towel. These particular releases, again, kind of feel like a bit of both. On one hand, we have the Batmobile itself, which a lot of people are excited about because aside from the previously released White Knight Batmobile, this would be the first comic book inspired Batmobile released by the McFarlane team, and definitely the first mainline comic book inspired Batmobile released by the McFarlane team. So a lot of people were looking forward to this because of all the fun display possibilities with all the different numerous Batman figures released by McFarlane based off of comic book design. So a lot of fun display and photography options with this Batmobile, but not without its faults. And the figure itself, it's the one where I think people are a bit more negative on, and that would extend to myself. While the Batman Rebirth design is very popular, this particular buck, it's not everybody's favorite, and a lot of people, including myself, have been asking for sort of a redo when it comes to the Batman Rebirth figure, just because the proportions on this buck, they're just off. There's just better attempts by McFarlane at making Batman figures where the proportions were significantly better. And while a lot of people were excited when they saw the cape, it kind of became apparent and has since been confirmed that it's not a wired cape. It's simply a cloth cape. And this is kind of where we start to wonder, are they really throwing in the towel? Once, okay, maybe that's a factory mistake. Twice, okay, couple times, not a big deal. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is now the third release following the Superman New 52 figure, the Batman No Man's Land figure. This would now be the third time that they issue a figure with a cloth cape without a wire. I don't know if this is cost cutting. I don't know if this is just them saying it doesn't matter, we're losing the line in the next 12 months roughly anyway, so why put the effort in? Hopefully that's not the case, and this doesn't become an ongoing thing where we no longer see wired capes. Starting to get a bad feeling that that's exactly where we're heading. On the plus side, a lot of people have been hoping for a gray and black version of this because of the head sculpt. So people are pretty excited about that. And even with the faults with the cape not being wired and the buck being what it is, a lot of people are excited just because that black and purple does look really nice. Circling back to the Batmobile itself, you will recognize this Batmobile for one of two reasons. One, because of the art from which it takes inspiration, by David Finch, if I'm not mistaken, from the Batman Rebirth comics back in 2016. Pretty close approximation, but could be better. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about in terms of how and why it could be better. Uh, the other thing you'll no doubtedly recognize if you're a Batman fan for more than 15, 20 years at this point is the inspiration it draws from the Batman the Animated Series Batmobile, which the art itself is based off. You know, it's that very iconic long design, the cockpit, so to speak, and the back part of the Batmobile almost identical. It's really in the front where you see some differences, but that's clearly where the inspiration is coming from. Now, oddly enough, we've actually seen a version of this Batmobile released by McFarlane in the past. It was actually one of the first things he released when they did this once and only once, and to be honest, I perfectly understand why. It's not something anybody was a really big fan of, which was the Build a Batmobile wave, which included the Batman Who Laughs, Nightwing, and Batgirl. This is one of those things where I wonder what exactly the thought process is. I guess you could make the argument that because it's a smaller figure, they could have paid more attention to detail. I don't know if I agree with that, but just look at the two side by side and you'll see the effort in paint is significantly better on this miniature version than on the new version, the significantly more expensive version. And cost is one of those things that we're going to be talking about a lot because it's gotten to a point where it feels like we're paying just as much, if not more, for items like Batmobiles that are coming with less than previous versions of Batmobiles released by McFarlane. Um, the paint is just it's just not there on the new one. I mean, the black parts are really nice, but really no effort put into the wheels, no effort put into the exposed engine. It's kind of just a bare gray plastic mold with nothing. There's no airbrushing on the black to sort of give it that, you know, textured, weathered look like with the miniature version. So that's pretty disappointing. Unlike other previous Batmobiles that cost just as much, or I think maybe a couple cases even less, there's no light features, there's no sound features. The cockpit, again, we're in so many ways, it's a lot of steps forward and just as many, if not more, steps backwards. It looks like the kind of cockpit you'd see in a Batmobile based off the 90s cartoon released in the 90s. It's very bare bones, very simple, minimal effort, still just a one-seater when we've been begging for two-seaters for God knows how long at this point. The back, the sculpting is really nice. I love the design of the engine. I love the aesthetic for the tail lights. All really, really well done, but no paint, no lights. Which all these criticisms probably wouldn't weigh so much for me and others if it wasn't the price point. When you're asking people to dish out $100 for something with less than a Batmobile released less than a year ago, like the versions from the Schumacher films that came with more, whether it was an additional figure, lights and sounds, or both. And I believe the retail price on those was $80 to $90, somewhere in that range. So while I'm happy to have it and put it in my collection, it does feel like they took the easy route. They gave us their bare minimum, but they're charging as if it came with all the bells and whistles. Scale-wise, it looks like it's going to be coming in 23 inches. This should fit most, if not all, Batman figures by McFarlane, with maybe the exception of ones with big, bulky, rubbery capes that just won't allow the figure to fit in. But definitely anything with a wired cape or even just a cloth cape. Now back to the Batman figure himself. One of the first things I'm sure you'll notice is that it's the same exact accessories as every other version of this figure we've seen. And again, they're just showing their lazy side. I mean, while I appreciate the fact that it comes with accessories, period, which unfortunately not everything does, including the alternate heads. Can we get some new accessories? Can we get some new alternate heads? Another weird choice that they made here is the neck peg is unusually short, and I don't know how it made it past, the testing phase with this neck peg, especially since it's clearly a reiteration of other figures we've seen in the past with a bigger neck peg, and it looks like this Batman has no neck. The unmasked head sculpt is nice. It kind of, while we've seen it before, it's a new chance for people to get it who didn't get it with that other figure. And the design itself is nice. It evokes Bruce Wayne. It kind of straddles that line between being kind of comic booky and cartoony. And it's it's a good head sculpt. The cape, listen, if there were a wire in that cape, that'd be one of their best ones yet, but no wire. And a lot of people are already planning on adding the wire, but the problem is we shouldn't have to be doing that, especially not for the price that we've paid for other figures that already came with the wire. As far as the design, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. If not, it's based off of David Finch's artwork, again in that same previously mentioned 2016 run from Batman Rebirth. It was that sort of nice new mixture of the classic black and yellow bat logo with the newer one without the big circle. A lot of people, like myself, big fan of that design choice. And we've seen this figure, this would now be the fourth time. The initial release was the just standard Batman Rebirth figure. It was then released again as part of a 3-pack that included Clayface and Batwoman, lighter gray, slightly different belt. And it was released one more time, this time in gray and blue, and this time a brand new head sculpt along with that previously seen unmasked Bruce Wayne head sculpt. All good figures. I have them all. I'm glad to have them all. But the fact that we are now on version 4.0, and the only thing that's changed is the color scheme, cloth cape, although without the wire, it just seems like a huge wasted opportunity to have finally done this figure justice and given us what we had been hoping for since that initial release. All in all, very mixed bag here. I mean, I already pre-ordered this, and I wouldn't say reluctantly so, but there is that part of me that wonders, should I have just held out, played the long game, and waited to see if I could have got this at a much bigger discount going forward, like with so many of these other Batmobiles we've seen recently. And who knows, maybe I'll cancel before it ships out and go that route. It's unfortunate I even have to consider this. It's a real weird time for the McFarlane DC Multiverse line right now because they're doing such good work. And while they're doing such good work, it also seems like they're doing some of their most baffling work at the exact same time. I'll be doing reviews of some of the more recent releases and items that I'm really, really pleased with, such as that new Deathstroke figure. It's while not perfect, pretty close. And yeah, I look forward to discussing more of that stuff. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with me this long. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. When it comes to commenting, please let me know what you guys are interested in hearing more of. I'm planning on doing some reviews for new stuff, but I'm also considering doing reviews for older stuff. So if you have any suggestions or any requests in terms of comparisons, or let's call them retro reviews, please by all means leave them in the comments. Any and all feedback would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again and have a great day.